Hello people of YouTube. This video is a little bit about safety, more or less. When it comes to my table saw, I don't really have any kind of push sticks or push blocks other than a couple of things I made out of some scrap wood, and they weren't even that great, and unfortunately recently one of them went missing. I think it may have gotten tossed away with some scrap wood, but nonetheless what I've decided to do is use some of my other scrap wood to make a push block. And I'm going to show you today how I made this. First of all, what I did, took a few boards left over from that same chair. If you watched my video on the spice rack or the organizer rack, I have scraps of those planks or boards, and I just kind of shaved the edge off of the table saw and glued two together. I sanded those down along with the extra third board. You got them nice and smooth and sanded and all the stain off of them. Got these two planks both glued together from the chair. And I've got another one that I'm gonna glue on, maybe a little offset. Then I've got this thin piece of craft board that I'm going to put along the edge. That will allow me, and of course I've got to trim this down so that it's the same thickness of this. I'm going to fashion a handle. So to get this the same thickness, I'm going to use this old tray. Because I'm going to trim this shorter, so I'm going to use my bandsaw to trim this off. As I've learned from experience, a thin piece of wood like this, trying to cut that length, it doesn't take anything for it to get sideways and thrown up at you or across the room. So now decide about how big I want this thing to be. Well, first of all, let me push this out of the way. I want one side down flat. Got these two pieces cut to the length I want. Now to just mark this. This isn't going to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be. It needs to do the job. Silly me, mark the thick end instead of the thin. So made that mark again real quick. And now to the bandsaw. The next thing I want to do is have some kind of handle. So taking this scrap piece of wood and drawing a little C cutout that I'm going to use the bandsaw to cut out. easier on the hands. I've decided I'm gonna kind of offset the handle a little bit. I'm gonna put it on the other side. I'm gonna drill some holes before I do. Kind of want to mark where the handle's gonna be. To start with, I'm just gonna drill a couple of small pilot holes. I'm gonna use a couple of these short screws, but I want to countersink them, I believe it's called, so that they sit flat inside. So switch this out. Pop one of these in there. First Nerf bit. I've got the countersink hole, large hole drilled out. A little smaller bit in here. I've switched out for a bit, a couple of sizes smaller, and I'm going to try and drill one little hole in here the best that I can. Take that one screw poking through, line it up with that hole. We'll try and tighten that on down. See if I can't get this one to start. That down real good. Now I've got an indentation to work with. I just need to drill a little bit. Just trying to avoid cracking the wood. There we go. I could just stop at that, maybe put something on here, sandpaper or something rubbery to grip it. But of course I'm going to go a step or two further. Now that I've got my handle on there, it's time to glue these two pieces to the bottom. Now the next thing is this is smooth. It's not going to do a whole lot as far as pushing. So I need to get some kind of material to glue on here to give it a bit of a grip. So I'm like, well, what kind of material am I going to use? I actually got the idea from somebody else. You could use an old mouse pad. Well, I say old mouse pad. Fortunately, this is new. There was a time I would have had these floating all around the house, but I don't anymore. But nonetheless, you know, one side is fairly smooth for you to move the mouse around, but the other side has more of a grip to it because you don't want the mouse pad moving. So I'm going to glue the top, cut these to size and glue the top of the mouse pad to the bottom of the push block. Cut out a couple of strips, glue on here. I'm just going to use just some Titebond Bond wood glue. I want to make sure that I'm gluing the smoother top side of the mouse pad to the bottom so that the rubbery grip part is facing down. Got it all glued together. Seems to work pretty good. Let's give it a quick little test run. Not bad. Need to trim that a little better there. Yeah, along just fine. And there you have it. It turned out fairly nicely. The mouse pad bottom gives it some good grip. I did have to kind of take a knife and trim the edges down a little bit smoother because it was kind of dragging along the fence. So got that sorted out. And as you can probably see, I left a little bit of a valley here so that I could straddle the saw blade without causing any damage to it. One of the main reasons I built this is for those small pieces between the blade and the fence. I had some projects working on where it was just not safe to do it by hand, and I didn't really have a good tool to do it. So this is much better. It's fairly sturdy. This will do until I break it. Who knows? But thank you for watching. As always, any questions, leave them in the comments below, and stay creative.